episode of Studying Cinema with Cozy. I'm your host, Jamal Hollywood, and today we will be discussing one of Jim Carrey's most famous movies, The Truman Show. So, started off, The Truman Show is basically about a man named Truman who grew up in a false world and a false reality. He was born into this world where everyone around him is playing a role as an actor, trying to keep the simulation going, cater to him, and to, see how he grows up living in this world. His whole life is being broadcasted on television in the real world and being controlled by people that, is in charge of this TV company that's running the TV show. Throughout his journey, he realizes that, the world that he's living in is not what he thinks it is. He starts to see how certain things just don't add up around him. He sees how whenever he tries to leave the city or tries to explore a little bit more, things don't work out, whether it be them not having, tickets for certain planes leaving at a certain time, or the bus, breaking down all of a sudden when he's trying to take a bus ride out of the city, or even traffic all of a sudden just picking up as soon as he tries to drive out of the city. It's little things like that that he starts to notice, and along with certain patterns that take place, seeing the same things every day, the repetition that his life is in, and, just growing up and not going outside of his means, outside of the world that he was, used to, made him look at things a little bit differently. He only had one best friend that he had grown up with since he was a child, and even his wife and everything was it was almost as if it was scripted all along, which it was. Once he realizes this, he tries to have certain conversations with people to try to break out of this simulation and try to get the answers that he's looking for, but everybody is playing their role, playing their part in keeping the simulation going and keeping this whole act going, to keep the entertainment going for the people watching at home. Everybody at home is watching the Truman Show take place and watching Truman in real time go through these events with these actors. And it's interesting to see how he goes up in this world not knowing, what's beyond, yet he's not afraid to seek out what it is beyond. This movie has a lot of metaphors and messages within it that allows you to think deeper about the world that we're living in today. There are certain things that go on in the movie that relate to certain things that we go through on an everyday basis. There's a scene where a light bulb falls out of the sky, and when Truman picks it up, on the back of it, it says Sirius. Some of you may know that Sirius is a star in our solar system. It's one of the brightest stars, if not the brightest star in the solar system, and it's also called the dog star. There's a lot of hidden messages like that within the film that allows people to, dig deeper into certain things and to learn more about certain pieces of information that they weren't necessarily interested in before. This movie is one of the better movies to watch with the times that we're living in today, especially with people saying that certain people are NPCs and that, the world doesn't feel real around them. This movie is exactly that. Everybody that's around Truman is basically an NPC, just playing their part and making sure that the simulation is kept going. He's the only one that's, conscious of what is going on around him and seeking the answers that, are going to lead him to get to the other side. A big thing in this movie is overcoming fear and just overcoming the obstacles that the world throws at you when you're trying to ascend and when you're trying to do better and seek better. One of the things that Truman was afraid of growing up was the sea and just, sailing the sea, being in the water, heavy rain and stuff. And throughout the film, when he realizes that he needs to, embark on certain things to get to where he needs to get to, he then goes into the sea. He sails a boat until he can't sail anymore, withstanding all of the storms, the heavy waves, and everything that's being thrown at him by the people that's controlling the simulation, aka the TV show. And when he reaches the end, he realizes that it really is what he thought it was, a simulation, something that was not real reality. As he reaches the end of it, it's a wall that he walks up some stairs, and then he reaches a door, and that's when the God figure, the man that created this show, speaks to him, and they have a little conversation. But it's a lot of things that kind of just correlate with what we have to go through. For Truman to get to the other side, he had to overcome his fear. Even though he knew the world that he was living in was fake, he still had to overcome his personal fear because of the thought in the back of his mind that something could go wrong, So standing up to his own personal fear, his own self, and standing up to the world around him that kept throwing things to set him back and to just keep him comfortable where he's at. It says a lot about the type of individuals we are when we're navigating through this world. If you're just somebody that's comfortable staying where you're at, staying stagnant, and just not really seeking answers that are gonna benefit you in the long run or gonna bring you to enlightenment in a certain aspect, those people are just gonna stay constant and stay where they're at, while others are fighting against the grain that is trying to keep them in their place. And even though they're trying to overcome certain things, it's going to come with some uncomfortability along the way. A lot of things that Truman thought was true, like his father being his father passing when he was younger, or even coming to realize that his best friend isn't really his real best friend. His best friend is just an actor that's playing his best friend. Little things like that he had to overcome and, be content with before even pursuing the ultimate goal of overcoming his fears and reaching the other side and breaking out of the simulation. All of those things weigh on your mind, and you have to be strong-minded and stay persistent with your goal to kind of see through, like Truman did. Like I said, we live in a world right now where our reality correlates a lot with the movie that Jim Carrey starred in. And whether you believe it or not, everybody around you in this world isn't who they seem to be. And even the world that we live in isn't what it seems to be. We as men and women do not understand everything in this realm or beyond this realm. So every day is a learning experience. The more you learn, the more you know. And when you know better, you move better within this world to get to the other side or to get to where you want to be, whether it is in this realm or whether you're looking beyond it. You just have to align yourself in the right aspects to make sure that happens. And to be comfortable being uncomfortable is a big part of that. Staying persistent and sticking with your goals, sticking with your gut, and not letting other people's opinions waver your thought process on how you should go about your way of life. That's one of the lessons that is learned in this movie. This movie has many gems and messages in it that you could pick away from and learn from. And I personally recommend it to those who haven't seen it. It's honestly one of, if not my favorite movie from Jim Carrey. I think it's cool to see certain actors of this caliber that kind of fall in the lines of comedy, to see them in certain roles that kind of, bring out different sides of them. There's comedy thrown in this movie, of course, but the movie is not a comedy, It's a movie that, you can learn from, and just, it's an interesting, engaging film. It's a movie that entertains you throughout the whole ride. I appreciate this movie for the, the messages that it puts out, and hopefully for the people that haven't seen it, when they do see it, they pick up on certain messages and, even call back onto this video to put certain pieces of the puzzle together. But with that being said, I appreciate you guys for tuning in to this series. And being that it is Black History Month, I'm going to tailor a lot of these reviews to, black films, whether they be made by black directors or star prominent black actors. We're gonna shine light on black films this month and, stay consistent with putting up good quality content and staying consistent with the podcast, staying consistent with every form of media that, the Cozy Candids brand has to offer. So I thank all of you guys for tuning in, subscribing, liking the videos, and, giving y'all feedback. The next movie review will be about The Green Mile. After that, I will be putting up a poll to see what you guys will want to see next. But until then, stay tuned, subscribe, and continue on living cozy.